Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Mint Owl Studio YouTube channel. So today we're going to be making a shaker card. I have a white A2 size card base, and then I have another piece of white cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I'm just lining those up. I have my card base open, so I'm going to die cut 2 layers. The first is just the regular piece of cardstock, which is my card front, and then the second is through the card base, but only the top layer of that card base. So I used the Simon Says Stamp stitched circle dies, and I am just going to peel off my washi tape, and then you can see how it die cut through both of those layers of cardstock. So I'm going to create a little bit of a different shaker card. You'll be able to see through to the inside of my card, which is why I die cut the circle twice. So I'm going to be stamping my background on that single layer of cardstock. I'm using the Some Bunny stamp set and one of the flower images. So I'm just using this Hero Arts Ombre ink pad. I'm not going to be doing the ombre, I just want the colors that come with it, so I'm going to be stamping them each color individually. So for the larger flower, I'm just going to put this onto my acrylic block, and then I'm going to stamp this up with the lightest color in that ombre ink. You could definitely use just a one color ink pad, but this is just easier for me to pull out instead of a whole bunch of different inks. So I'm just randomly stamping this flower onto my background. You could also use the different stamps that are in the stamp set, such as the heart, or you could stamp some of the bunnies just in a solid color in the background instead of coloring them in. So after I get the larger flower stamped, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the smaller flower, and I'm using the middle color of ink, so it's a little bit darker than the larger flowers. And I'm just kind of filling in those gaps and stamping this smaller flower all over my background. I want to try to fill in as much area as I can so there's just a little bit of white in the background. So next I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment, and I'm stamping this in the middle of my card base. So in the middle of that circle that I cut into my card base, I'm going to ink this up with my black ink, and then stamp the Some Bunny Loves You sentiment right in the center. Next, I'm going to create my shaker part. So I took a piece of acetate. It's just a clear kind of a paper, I guess. It's a plastic. You could use the extra packaging if you have any. And I just outlined the edge in my 3D foam squares. And then I took off all of the little adhesive backings, and then I'm going to pour the Hearts and Kisses mix into that square. You can use any sequins in this, they work really well. And then I'm going to take another piece of acetate, it's the same exact size as the back one, and just lay it right over the top. So then I'll have this little shaker part. And you won't be able to see any of the foam squares around the edges, so it doesn't really matter if it's perfect or not. There is my little shaker pocket that I'm going to add onto my card. So it's going to go right on top of my card base and then behind that other panel that I die cut the circle out of. So I'm just taking my ATG gun and adding adhesive all along the outside edge of the circle. I just want to make sure that there's plenty of adhesive around the edge so that that shaker part doesn't move at all. So I'm going to do it around both of those circles. And then I'm going to place down that shaker square right on top of my card base, just making sure that it's lined up so that none of those foam squares will show. And then I'm also going to add some foam squares around the parts of the card base so that none of it is flat on there, just because that part, the shaker part, is popped up. So I want the whole background to be popped up as well. Otherwise there's going to be some caving on my card base. So then I'm going to take the front panel and place it right over that, line it up with the edges of my card base. And there we have the card base part and the shaker part done on our card, so it's just time to decorate the front. I'm going to be using one of the bunnies from the Some Bunny stamp set as well. So it's the one where the older bunny and the younger bunny, you could use it as a mom or a dad and a child. I'm just going to ink that up with my Tuxedo Black Memento ink and then stamp that on a piece of Coordinations 110-pound cardstock. And then I'm going to be coloring this in with my Copic markers. So I'm starting with the C1. This is just going to be my base color. So I'm going to color in the entire bunny with this really light gray color. And then I'm going to add in the little bit of shading with the C3. So I'm just kind of flicking that color in from the edges. And then I'll add a little bit darker with the C5. And I'm just going back in and adding a little bit more of that C3, and then I'll blend all of that together with the C1. So for the baby bunny, I'm going to be coloring this one in a little bit darker. So for my base color, I'm starting with the C3. I'm just coloring this in, and I did make sure that my ink was completely dried before I started coloring this in, so I dried it with my heat tool. And then I'm adding a little bit of shading with the C5. And then I'll go back in and blend that with the C3. I don't want the highlights or the shadows to be too dark on this little bunny. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pink to the cheeks with the RV11 along with the belly of the one bunny. And I'm just blending that color out with the C1 so that it's not such a bright pink color. So I went ahead and fussy cut that out. Next I'm going to add some twine, and I'm going to tie this around the front of my card. I have a pink one and a red string here, so there are two strands of twine. I'm just going to tie this into a bow. So I'm first tying it into a knot so that it's easier to tie that bow. And once I get it situated, I can go ahead and trim off the ends. And then I'm going to attach my little bunnies to my card, so I'm going to pop those up as well using my 3D foam squares. And this card may look like a Valentine's Day card, but you could definitely use it for an anniversary card or for Easter that's coming up. So I'm just going to place those right over the twine and then stick them down. And then that is my finished shaker card. So I really hope you like it so that you can see through the center. If you try this card, make sure that you share with us. We would love to see it, and we will see you back here next time. Bye!